good evening, and welcome back to Class 5's Stories from the Shed, featuring Rebel, the roaring dinosaur. And today's episode is episode 12. Before we get on with our story, Small Change for Stuart by Lissa Evans, let's remind ourselves of the characters. We've got Stuart Horten, the tiny boy who came to live in Beaton. We've got Stuart's dad, who uses very long, complicated words. We've got Leonora, who's blind and with her dog Pluto. We've got Clifford, the trainee magician. We've got the kingly triplets, April, May and June. We've got there's no Teeny Tiny and there's no Genie. Maybe we'll see those later. We'll have to see. Let's get back to the story. Okay, Small Change for Stuart. Chapter 18. Now, if you remember, the last time we read in episode 11, Stuart had met with Leonora at the bingo hall, and he'd found out that Lily, Teeny Tony's girlfriend, had disappeared. And Teeny Tony had been preparing a special trick called the Well of Wishes, and Lily had disappeared during the trick, he thought. And so Stuart knows that he has to find Teeny Tiny Tony's secret workshop. He's got to find the combination to the safe, and he's still got to find a few more clues, and we'll find out more in this chapter. Chapter 18. Cycling with a scrapbook under his arm wasn't easy, and halfway home, as Stuart rounded a corner, the book slid out from under his elbow, spinning ahead of him along the road, pages fluttering. A newspaper clipping detached itself from the last page, and Stuart got off his bike and chased the slip of paper along the pavement. As he grabbed it and shoved it back into the book, he realised that he could hear running footsteps behind him, and he turned and saw a chunky man in green trousers tearing around the corner at full pelt, arms pumping like a sprinter. A second later, the man caught sight of Stuart, stopped dead, spun on his heel, and haired back out of view again. So, if I remind myself, we've got Stuart, and I wonder who he's being followed by. We'll soon find out. Stuart stood staring. He'd recognised the man. It was Clifford, the trainee magician who was following him. Overhead, a white dove flew in a lazy loop and settled on top of the lamppost. Oh, the dove from above has appeared. There it goes. Jeannie's ordered him to follow me, thought Stuart. She's hoping that I'll lead the way to the workshop. He got back on his bike again and pedalled off very slowly. He took the next left, cycled halfway along the road, then shoved his bike under a parked car and crouched behind it. Sure enough, 30 seconds later, pounding footsteps approached. They thundered straight past and round the next corner. Grinning, Stuart got his bike out again and rode home in the other direction. So he's easily fooled Clifford. He felt full of purpose and energy, and as soon as he'd hidden the scrapbook in his room and had eaten a packet of crisps, a ham sandwich, 4 pickled onions, a lump of cheese, 2 more pickled onions, and another packet of crisps, he was ready to set out again. Stuart obviously hasn't discovered indigestion yet, children. Whither your current destination? Asked his father. The library. Mum said they'd phoned me yesterday about a book. Oh, splendid. Do you mind if I accompany you? They walked there together, and Stuart waited until his father was transfixed by Volume 3 of The History of European Lexicography before he set off for the inquiries desk. Aha, said the same man as before, his glasses still dangling on a chain around his neck. It's our local history scholar. Stay there just a moment. He disappeared into a back room, and Stuart waited impatiently, drumming his fingers on the desktop. And here we are, said the man, reappearing. We've reinserted the missing photograph. Do not forget the gloves. Stuart took the little book over to a table and eased the white gloves onto his fingers. He opened Modern Beaton, a photographic record, and spotted a little paragraph that he hadn't noticed before, tucked away in tiny print at the bottom of the title page. This booklet was commissioned by Horten's Miraculous Mechanisms as a permanent record of the firm's contribution to the life of 20th century Beaton. Stuart started to leaf through, and this time it was looking like a family album. The little boy that was Great Uncle Tony gazed out from every page, pulling a different face in each. First in the phone box, then beside the weighing machine, then by the swimming pool turnstile. "And that's the order I found them in," said Stuart out loud. There was a fierce "shh" from the man behind the counter. Stuart hunched down, embarrassed, took a piece of scrap paper and pencil, and started to make a list. And here's his list. Clues I found around Beaton. So he got the magic coins out of his father's money box. Number 1, in the high street he found the phone box. He put the coins in and it gave him a message to get to the library. He's done that. Number 2, at the train station he found the old weighing machine that was being chucked out in the skip. He put the coin in and it gave him the clue of Gravest Flate, which he twisted the letters around to get Grave Street flat E. Then, from there, he went to the swimming pool. On the turnstile, he put the coin in and got a key out. Then he's been to this bingo hall and he's heard about the toffee machine, but he's never found it yet. He hasn't found it yet. The petrol station, he knows there was some form of coin-operated machine there. The fairground, he doesn't know much about that yet. But what he does know is the key that he got from the turnstile opened the door to Uncle Tony's house. He got in Uncle Tony's house in the chimney and found the safe. He's got to go and get back the safe. So it's all of these things that he's got to find next. In this photo at the petrol station, Great Uncle Tony was doing a handstand against the side of the building, where Stuart had seen the bicycle repair sign. His booted feet were resting on a tall metal box on 4 legs. Stuart stared at the box for a while, then shrugged and wrote some type of machine before turning the page. Number 6. Fairground. Pictured were a big wheel and a merry-go-round, a shoot-the-duck stall and a candy floss booth. There was even a ghost train. Now, children, in the olden days, a fairground ghost train would have looked something like this. Fairgrounds are slightly different today than they were then. But there would have been a lot of the usual things like the Wurlitzers and a ghost train and a helter-skelter. But that's what the ghost train would have looked like. Great Uncle Tony was in the photograph, of course, in the background, standing on one foot and miming a kick at a passing boy with the other. Just behind him was an odd-looking object. It looked like a huge upright ruler as tall as Stuart's father. At the top of it was a round bell, and written down the side of the ruler were the words, "Test your strength. 3D a go. 3 goes for 6D. Remember, D means pence." What appeared to be an enormous mallet on a rope was hanging from a hook behind it. Stuart added the word strength machine to the list. Now, what he's talking about is something like this. It's an old-fashioned fairground strength machine where you take the mallet, you hit the iron on the bottom, and depending on how hard you hit, it'll fly up and hit the bell, and you'd win a prize. Okay. Then he turned the page and saw for the first time the missing photo. "Ancient and modern together. A young man today encounters the past," read the caption. The young man was Great Uncle Tony. For once, he was right at the centre of the picture. He was standing in a large, rather grand room, gazing at a glass cabinet filled with what looked like tiny buttons. Behind him were other cabinets, also filled with buttons. Stuart frowned and just wrote, number 7. Clue 7, ? And then he turned to the last picture, 8. The bandstand. Now, we've been to the bandstand before, and you've seen a picture of one. The bandstand stood in the middle of the park. The notice board fixed to its base had a poster that said Sunday concerts, and next to it on the grass sat Uncle Tony playing an imaginary trumpet. Stuart looked at the photo close up, his nose almost touching the page, and then again from a distance. He even turned it upside down, just in case he was missing something. Finally, he gave up and turned back to the photograph of Uncle Tony and the buttons. Cabinets of buttons? Shiny buttons? Shiny metal buttons? No, Stuart realised suddenly. They weren't buttons at all. Hurriedly, he returned the book to the desk. You weren't supposed to run in the library, but he ran and found his father in the reference section. "Dad," he said breathlessly, "do you remember a few days ago you said something about coins to me?" "Coins?" said his father dreamily, his finger still marking his place in the history of European lexicography, his brain elsewhere. "Coins," repeated Stuart slowly and firmly. "You said something about a collection being of interest to a numismatology something." "Aha!" His father's face lit up. "You're talking about the Horten numismatology collection in Beaton Museum. Apparently it's splendid." "The Horten Numi-what's-it collection?" "Yes." "What, it's named after our family?" "I believe so." "But you didn't tell me it was called that." "Oh, didn't I?" said his father with infuriating vagueness. "No, never mind. Can we go there?" asked Stuart. "Can we go there right now?" Now, the numismology collection, children, what that means is a large collection of coins. And to give you an example, here's my Charlie's collection of 50p's. This is partly a numismology collection. Okay, so it means a collection of coins. That's what that fancy word means. So Stuart's now found out that the clue is he knows he's got to go to the places in these photos. So he's got to go to the coin collection that's in the museum. Okay? Now, I don't know if you've ever been to museums, but the last museum I went to was absolutely freezing. And I know it's getting a bit cold in my shed here. I can feel a great cold presence happen. There's some powers at work again. That sounds like Jeannie. I wonder what she's been up to this time. I hope Teeny's okay then. What's she done this time? She's frozen him in solid ice. OMG.